The 2025 Canadian Grand Prix is officially in the books, wrapped up on June 15th. And honestly, that race had no business being as wild as it was. Teammates crashing, a win from pole, a rookie, 18 years old, standing on the podium like he's been here for years. And right when it looked like the front row would go down to the wire, boom, yellow flags, safety car, and a protest? Yeah, Montreal delivered. So if you missed the madness or just want to relive it from the start, this is the full recap of the 2025 Canada GP. Grid chaos and positioning. Now regarding the qualifying, it had ended with a bang. George Russell snatched pole in the final seconds, just edging out Verstappen. That alone set the tone. Piastri and Antonelli lined up right behind them on row 2, and with how tight things looked all weekend, you could feel this wasn't going to be straightforward. There were grid penalties flying everywhere. Tsunoda got bumped down 10 places for a red flag infringement. Lawson and Hajar also dropped spots, and a few cars even started from the pit lane after overnight changes. It shook up the order more than usual. The tire choices told their own story. Most of the frontrunners went for mediums, but a handful at the back took the hard compound, which meant teams were split between going long on a 1-stop or attacking early with a 2-stop. Everything felt unpredictable. Mercedes looked quick, but so did Red Bull. McLaren had both drivers in the mix, and Ferrari were lurking. It was one of those setups where you just knew strategy, timing, and one mistake could flip the whole thing upside down. And looking back now, that's exactly what happened. Early moves. When the lights went out, Russell didn't waste a millisecond. Straight off the line, he got the launch he needed, just clean and controlled into turn 1. Verstappen slotted in behind, keeping it tidy, but never really threatening through those opening corners. The real move came right behind them. Kimi Antonelli, 18 years old, starting 4th, sent one up the inside of Piastri into turn 3 and made it stick. No hesitation, just sharp, confident driving. From that moment on, he was running 3rd, and he never gave that spot back. Further back, it wasn't as calm. Albon had a rough one early, battling Colapinto and bouncing over the grass at turn 9. That dropped him down the order fast. Meanwhile, Hülkenberg made up a couple of spots, and Tsunoda, starting from way back after his penalty, was already on the charge. Up front, Verstappen stayed within DRS of Russell for the first few laps, close enough to apply pressure, but never quite close enough to attack. Behind them, Antonelli, Piastri, and Norris all settled into a rhythm. But you could already sense something brewing in that McLaren camp. No drama yet. But the way those gaps were shaping up, it was only a matter of time. Strategy games. The first real strategy moves started around lap 13. That's when Verstappen blinked first, diving into the pits for a fresh set of hards. It was an aggressive move, classic Red Bull trying to force Mercedes' hand early, and it worked. Russell came in the very next lap to cover it off. No mistakes from the crew, no hesitation. He rejoined still ahead of Max, which was crucial because that undercut would have been brutal if it landed. That pit sequence temporarily handed the lead to Antonelli, who hadn't stopped yet, but it didn't last long. He came in shortly after, rejoining right back where he started, 3rd place, with Piastri now behind him on track. Meanwhile, McLaren had Norris and Piastri running long, stretching those mediums as far as they could. And for a few laps, it worked. They even found themselves leading the race at one point. But everyone knew it wasn't real track position, they still had to stop. Further back, Ferrari were in their usual tactical fog. Leclerc was already questioning the plan, asking whether Plan C might be better than Plan B, while Hamilton was stuck in traffic and slowly losing touch with the top 5. This middle phase of the race became all about positioning, covering off pit windows, managing tire wear, and keeping options open. And right around this point, you could tell this was shaping up for a tense finish. Mid-race pressure. By the halfway point, the field had reset, and Russell was back in control at the front. He'd managed to keep Verstappen behind through the pit cycle, and slowly, that gap started to stretch. Max was still there, but you could hear it in the radio chatter. The grip just wasn't holding up.
Not good. It's really fragile.
He called the tires fragile. Red Bull knew they were going to have to try something different in the second half. Behind them, Antonelli was sitting solid in third. No mistakes, no drama, just quietly delivering lap after lap under pressure from Piastri. McLaren were hoping to leapfrog the Mercedes somehow, but Kimi wasn't giving them anything to work with. Norris, meanwhile, was on the move. He'd passed Hamilton earlier and was now closing the gap to his teammate. Both McLarens were still in the mix, and neither one looked like they were going to back off. Further back, Leclerc was still confused about Ferrari's strategy. Hamilton, who had picked up floor damage earlier, turns out he hit a groundhog, was losing time in dirty air. Albon, the only medium runner yet to pit, finally came in on lap 24. But by then, any chance at points was gone. At this stage, you had Russell controlling from the front, Verstappen holding second, Antonelli defending third, and both McLaren stacking up behind. And with one more round of pit stops coming, everything was about to tighten up. Final stops. The second round of pit stops started to roll in just past lap 38, and once again, Verstappen was first to blink. Red Bull brought him in early, hoping that an undercut on fresh hards might get him closer to Russell. Mercedes didn't wait around. They covered with Antonelli first, who slotted back out just behind Max, and then Russell came in on lap 43. That call was all about avoiding traffic. He rejoined in fourth, but crucially, still ahead of Verstappen. At that point, Piastri and Norris were suddenly at the front. McLaren had left both drivers out, trying to stretch that second stint and maybe grab some late race advantage. But the longer they stayed out, the more pressure was building behind them. Piastri was holding the lead temporarily, with Norris close behind and Russell gaining fast. Leclerc was still running but dropping off on pace. Ferrari hadn't pulled him in yet, and he was starting to fall into the clutches of the group behind. By now, everything was bunching up. Russell, Verstappen, Antonelli, all on fresh tires, hunting. The McLarens were out front but running out of grip, and with less than 20 laps to go, the fight for the podium was about to explode. Collide and disaster. With around 10 laps to go, Piastri had rejoined behind Antonelli after his stop, but he wasn't giving up the fight for the podium. He was pushing hard, closing the gap, and just behind him, Norris was catching up. Fast. McLaren didn't call team orders. No hold position, no swap if faster. They let them race. And that decision, it would cost them. Norris was flying. He got right on the back of Piastri. DRS every lap, poking around the hairpin, looking for a gap. The first big move came at turn 10. Norris went deep, took the spot, but Piastri came right back at him into the final chicane. It was clean, barely, but the second attempt wasn't. Down the straight on lap 67, Norris went for it again. He braked late, way too late, and misjudged the gap completely. He clipped the back of Piastri's car and went straight into the wall. Race over. This was just a brutal end to what could have been a double McLaren podium, and suddenly the whole race flipped on its head. Again. Safety car and controversy. Norris's crash triggered an instant safety car, and with only a few laps to go, that was basically the end of the racing. A handful of drivers dove into the pits for fresh tires, hoping for some last-lap chaos or positions on the restart. But up front, the order was mostly locked. Russell led, Verstappen second, Antonelli third, Piastri, somehow still running, in fourth. Then came the weird part. Behind the safety car, Russell started playing it clever. He slowed up more than expected. Verstappen was caught off guard. Red Bull thought Russell was trying to bait Max into overtaking under safety car conditions, a move that could have earned him a penalty or worse. They filed a protest after the race. It didn't go anywhere, but it showed how tense things had gotten at the front. And with Norris's car still being recovered, there was no time left. The race ended behind the safety car. Quiet on track, but loaded with implications. Wins and shines. So, officially, George Russell took the win, his first of the season, Mercedes' first too, and after last year's heartbreak in Montreal, this one felt like redemption. Max Verstappen came home second. He'd pushed all race, even tried the undercut, but Russell had him covered. No fireworks this time, just respect. Third, Kimi Antonelli. The 18-year-old rookie held off McLaren pressure the entire race and brought home his first ever F1 podium. The youngest driver on the grid, now one of the biggest stories of the weekend. Piastri managed to finish fourth despite the damage from that McLaren incident. He gained points but lost a teammate in the process. Leclerc rounded out the top 5, followed by Hamilton, who'd been struggling since hitting a groundhog early on. Alonso, Hülkenberg, Ocon, and Sainz made up the rest of the top 10. Clean, consistent drives. Nothing flashy, but points are points, and for teams like Sauber and Haas, that matters a lot right now. As for Norris, he was classified but didn't finish. No points. And more importantly, 22 points behind Piastri now in the championship. So that was the 2025 Canadian Grand Prix. Russell finally got his win, Mercedes got their double podium, and Antonelli, well, he just became F1's newest star. Next up, Austria. Short track, fast laps. And now a grid full of drivers who know it's wide open at the top. If this is what mid-season looks like the second half, could be madness. So make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and stick around. We are going to cover it from start to finish. See you there.